Welcome to the One Hand at a Time podcast. I'm your host, Chris Welton. And today I have another guest that I met through a mastermind that I've been part of with Ben Newman. It seems like every episode lately, it's been somebody that I've met at an event or through a mastermind. And I've known who this gentleman was for a long time because he's been a dominating force in the mortgage space for years. I've seen him speak before, and we finally got to meet in person last year. And since then, we've built kind of a good relationship here as we're both building out similar types of companies and just trying to grow in this market. JJ, welcome to the call, man.
Yeah, thanks so much, brother. I appreciate it. It's good to be here.
Yeah, it's funny when we sat down next to each other at lunch in Las Vegas. I was Las Vegas last year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wait a minute, I know who JJ is. And that was kind of how the conversation went from there. But man, I really want to just kick it right off with what you've got going, what you're working on. I mean, I've been watching it from afar and have been, even in the elite mastermind room with you in the top of the Palms Hotel, just kind of learning and trying to figure out what we need to do to build out these successful companies. Tell us about what you have going on with your new coaching company.
Yeah, so a large percentage of us had left our previous employer and program that we were with for a long time. It was great. It was a box that I needed to be in that changed my life and changed some habits that I had. And, we were there for, 10 plus years and really found that there was a large space that needed to evolve and a lot of things that were outside that box that me and my partners and founders were doing that we weren't really allowed to go in depth or talk about, that we found that were going to be beneficial, everything from time management to scaling and leveraging and those type of things. And, this business after 28 years, one thing I've learned about the mortgage space is it changes and evolves, and the only thing that hasn't changed about the mortgage business is that it changes and evolves constantly. So, I know that if it's new, it's not true. I do believe in that to a certain extent, but there are a lot of things that I still keep using that word evolve, that evolve and get better and improve. And so we really wanted to just be able to take the time to do something with the liberties and freedoms to be able to share that with other people in something that's it wasn't as such a rigid atmosphere. So, the only way we were going to be able to do that was doing it on our own and creating the vision that we saw. And so we thought we would just do the most difficult thing possible and start that from scratch.
Yeah, I've been watching from afar. Gavin's a friend of mine, so I've been able to see some of the stuff going on there. And I've been waiting patiently for the release. Like it's like your favorite band has this new album coming out. You've been hearing about it for a long time. So that's how I've kind of been waiting for you guys to bring it out, because everybody in all the founders are just powerhouse individuals who I've looked up to for years, right? Like I'm like, okay, well, I've learned from this guy and I've learned from him and I've learned from JJ. Like, so it's like really cool to see all this and what kind of impact it's going to bring towards the industry as a whole. How was that? I don't want to get into too big of a detail with you there, but how was that, the feeling of leaving something that had worked for such a long time, as far as the company you're with before, which we all have been part of that company one way or the other in the industry if you're successful, and they did an amazing job for a long time. How was the transition from that to going out on your own?
It's hard, a lot of deprogramming, and while also keeping the disciplines that are necessary and required. It's no different than changing a trainer at the gym or going to a different gym or changing companies in the mortgage space. There's certain disciplines you need to make sure you keep that are non-negotiable. And then there are certain things that you need to realize that, man, things are a little different. I can do things differently. I can try new things, and that's okay. And I'm going to fail at some of them, and I'm going to succeed at others of them, and that's okay. So yeah, a little bit of both, but it was pretty awesome, because I think all of us that are working together have all learned from each other, and we still do. And iron sharpens iron, and the biggest thing that I realized about where we came from is it wasn't as much about the program as it was as much about the community itself. And, there was the community had changed. And so that's where it was like, okay, well, if it is about the community, then we can create that community and we can be a part of a community and we can we can see that, see that further through. So I think it's just mixed emotions is the best way to describe it. And the further that I get out from it, the easier that it is. But I feel
Yeah.
the best thing I do, I feel a lot lighter. I would tell you that much. I do
Yeah.
feel a lot lighter.
I'm curious too with that transition. Like you're like I said, you've been a dominating force in the mortgage space for so long. What's the driver behind? Okay, now I want to go ahead and build a coaching company too and keep my mortgage business going. I mean, like I I would assume that you got such a good box of business or in your mortgage space, you could have gone off and just did that and been totally fine on that side of things. But what's the driving force for you guys to say, okay, now I want to build this coaching company, which they're not easy to build. I'm in the
No.
process of building one too, and it's a learning cycle every day, and nothing like you guys are doing. It's a totally different level and it's something different, but it's still the same when it comes to building something else when I've been considered an expert in my other space.
Yeah, in my mortgage space, man, I'm an entrepreneur at my mortgage space. And that's why I love where I'm at. I wouldn't work anywhere else. This will be the last mortgage company I ever work for. And so when you start getting, and you're blessed to be in a position like that and have just such a great place that you're at and a great person that you work for in the mortgage space, then, there is that part of you that wants to be an entrepreneur. And starting a mortgage company from scratch, at this stage in my life and career, it's just not something that I want to do. And maybe
Mhm.
for some people it is. And I would encourage people that might be a great idea. But for me, it wasn't. For me, sharing, giving, 28 years of perseverance and headaches and failures and successes and highs and lows and things that I have learned in tactics along the way in the coaching and mortgage space and real estate space as a real estate investor for a long time. I would say that, man, that to me makes me super joyful to think about that. And then going fast forwarding, 15 years in the future, do I want to look back and be like, man, I wish I started that. I wish I started that. No, I want to be able to go 15 years in the future and be like, man, I'm really glad I started that because, I would see that that's probably where my future would be anyways, is just helping other people grow. I'm not a golf course retire kind of guy. That's just not who I am. I'm way too young to really stop working anytime soon. So, man, why not do something that brings me massive amounts of joy? And I always wanted to be in the teaching space ever since I was a kid. And that's just always something I gravitated towards, but it just wasn't. I was also too financially motivated by my circumstances to become a teacher. So it just never played out. But what I realized is getting into coaching, becoming a coach, it was just very natural for me to kind of fall into that same role in just a different space.
So how did you pick your partners to become the found? Like, how did you get? I mean, I know everybody in the group. I mean, it's one way or the other. I mean, but how did you guys decide that hey, we're the ones that are going to take this next step and create this group?
Man, I think God decided for us. Honestly, I think it was a
Yeah,
matter of we were similar people with similar mindsets at the right place at the right time that kind of came together, and it wasn't more complicated than that. I think we all felt we complemented each other. We were all very different. We can all still learn something from each other. There were lots. Uh, I think all of those things were the reason why it came together. And we all trust each other and want to see each other succeed and go in that direction. So encouraging as well. So yeah, I would say it's more a God thing and it just kind of turned out the way it did. And there aren't any assholes there. So that's always a plus, right? You don't want
that's
to work
definitely
with
a
one of
plus.
those.
Yeah,
So
we've
yeah.
worked with those guys before for sure.
We have, and I've probably been one of those guys
Me
too,
too.
right?
Me
And I've
too.
been the
Yeah,
guy that someone's worked for. So I'm like very cognizant of making sure I'm not that guy anymore and, making sure that I'm not seeking out those people. So all of these people are amazing humans. For me, Josh Sigmund was my first coach, and moved my needle when I started with him. I went from 6 figures to 7 figures in a very short period of time. So he and I have become really, really close and great friends. Gavin and I have grown together as well. Haley, one of the most powerhouse business women that I know.
agreed.
So it's really great because we all have very different businesses, but at the same token, very similar and a lot to learn and grow from still.
Yeah, I love the diversity of the group as far as you're all different people, right? Like, I mean, because if you look at where everybody came from, it's all different. Everything's different, but it's all about you've put in the work in an area and created massive success for you and so many people around you. It's just, you're right. It looks like God brought it together. It looks like a perfect fit, right? It's like the 92 dream team, right? Like they just kind of put together and this is what we have. And I, I'm really excited to see what the next steps are as you guys continue to build this out. I mean, what's your big goals with it? Like you want a certain number of members, impact a certain number of individuals. Like, what is that? Is there something you guys have put in place where you're really saying, okay, this is where we want to go?
Yeah, I mean, we're all really big thinkers and big vision people. We want to just honestly, we want to build a community that we can help as many people as we possibly can. And we want to share that with other people. I think that was a big thing. We want to share it with our coaching partners. Um, we want to build something big and special, but most importantly, special. I don't want something that's so big that it can't be intimate and move the needle. But at the same token, you want to move the needle for as many
Yeah.
people as you possibly can. So I think this will be, we talk about evolution. I think the company will evolve also, and it'll be awesome to see that. And so our first event, which is, September 19th, and 20th, is going to be our main focus. Our big goal is just making sure that everyone that comes there feels loved, walks away with amazing tactics, feels like, man, this was a really great decision to be there. And we've just poured into them with everything that we have for that day and a half. And then from there, just taking the next step to see who wants to take that next step with us.
What I like so much about your event coming up is obviously Ben's going to be there. He's my guy, right? He's my coach and has been for a while now. And Jesse's an amazing individual. But I love the fact that you have two non-mortgage people that are going to lead some areas of the event. Like, I
Yeah,
feel like for years we would go to the event, and I won't say the name of the event, but we'd go to the event and it was all mortgage people, right? It was
right,
all, and I think there's just so much more to sales than just the mortgage, seeing somebody on stage that's done well, right? Because more times than
correct.
not, the super impactful people have someone else too that they're working with besides just the mortgage type of coach. I'm excited the fact that you guys are spending a lot of time with a guy like Ben, who talks mindset, mental toughness, all these things that are required to compete at a high level in the mortgage space or any sales space that I think was not part of the past when we talked about being coached in the mortgage industry.
Yeah. Mindset for me it's been a big thing since I had left, because I understand discipline is necessary. That's, the freedom is in the discipline. Those are the type of things when we talk about, leaving the company I was at, is making sure that those are the things that are staying implanted and true.
Yeah.
Um, leaving behind the fear of money and things like that. There are other things that you have to deprogram, but the discipline is very, very clear, and Ben's great on that. I think it was important for us to have some bookends, where, listen, I'm not too proud to say that, I want someone up there on stage that's going to help the people in the crowd. I don't care who it is. And
Mhm.
I think we're going to have some social media experts. We're going to have some real estate experts. We're going to have some mortgage experts, but in the room, we're going to have insurance people. We're going to have people in the title and escrow space. I mean, it's really for commission salespeople and entrepreneurs and financial planners. I mean, there's going to be all types of people, because at the end of the day, it's the systems and the structures to generate leads, to convert leads, to scale a team and do it in less time, that if I just remove the word mortgage from it, it applies and is very applicable to all aspects of those businesses. And most of them don't get to share in any of that. And that was one of the things where it's like, man, these people don't, like, if they applied some of the tactics that we know and we do that are like brushing our teeth for us, man,
Mhm.
it would move the needle on their insurance business or title business or financial planner business. And so that was kind of a big aha, and a little uncomfortable getting out of your normal space, for sure, from a coaching standpoint, but not really so much when you realize it's just the same stuff. It's just you're talking to a little bit of a different audience. So I think we're excited for that. I think that's a big difference for us as well. And then having them end the day, I thought was also super important, because we're going to be doing breakout classes. We've got some amazing breakout classes around time management, lead generation, lead conversion, all of that. So to be able to wrap the day up with people like Ben and Jesse, it's going to be, no one's going to sleep. That's for damn sure.
No, no, that's for sure. And we both know that very well. Um, you know, I find the same thing with me in my coaching business. When the direction I've gone is that I've been dealing with a lot more, not just real estate and mortgage space. I
Hmm.
mean, my call today was with a regional director for the whole southeastern United States with State Farm Insurance. Like I've broken into that area, right? Because they
Yeah.
and the tactics that I'm teaching is stuff that I've taught for years in the mortgage space, and they're like, "What?
Yeah.
Man, I should. What should I do?" I mean, like 101 stuff that we've been doing our whole careers. It's stuff they don't know about, and these guys are killing it in their space. Now, I can imagine if they put some of the sales behind it. Like, I mean, State Farm's the best brand on the planet when it comes to insurance. I mean, they're number one, so it's easy to sell those products. But what if you actually were a salesperson? What
Yeah.
could you really do, right?
Well, what if you were actually prospecting? Like,
Yeah,
shocker.
I know,
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. But I think the mortgage space it is a difficult sell. It is very, very, so many variables that are outside your control. The market, the rates, the people, like there's so many variables that we have no control over with no guarantees. Your clients can cancel the day of closing should they choose
Mm-hmm.
to. And those are really special skills you have to learn to sell, retain, acquire and retain those sales that, man, you put them in other businesses where the retention's a little bit easier or maybe the sales a little bit easier and that can 10x their business.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. I mean, like I get amazed sometimes when I have the conversations with people outside the space just on some of the strategies we've used to create leads and to lead gen and actually have face to face conversations with people. Um, and when they start implementing the things they do, I have a guy who's in the land development space that I coach, and what he's been able to do from some of the stuff over the last year and a half is insane. What he's been able to grow his business just because some of the tactics and things we put in place, which again were things that we did all along just to put food on the table for our families. Like
Yeah.
that's was the main reason I got in the mortgage space was to be able to feed my family, right?
Yeah.
And then learn from there and grow. Um, how do you feel about so many people? I feel like they're coming out of the woodwork right now. Maybe it's just my particular activator, but there's coaches. Everybody's a coach now. Like, and I just find that a lot of people that are out there, my opinion is they're saying they're a coach. They don't have the proof to back it up. Are you seeing a lot of the same stuff on like? What are you seeing that as
Yeah.
well?
Yeah. It's funny. I wondered about the reticular activator part as well, but I do see more of that in that space. Um, I think I think that's just to be expected. I think but it comes down to, yeah, what is the experience, right? I mean, collectively, our group, we're really proud about how many years of experience we have in the coaching space,
Yeah.
that all of the founders are individually able to retire. Um, but don't, and I think that's what most people are striving for. So it allows us, like, I can easily go back to where I was doing 2 deals a month and remember what that was like, and being able to access the different levels and areas of success that all people are trying to attain. Not everyone's trying to get to a point where they can be independently able to retire necessarily. Maybe they just want to 2x their business or 3x their business. So I think the more experience, meaning if people have hit what others might achieve to be the pinnacle of that, which is not having to work, but wanting to work, then man, I'm able to coach everywhere and every space in between that, where, some of these and there's a lot of coaches out there that can do that as well. Don't get me wrong. But then unfortunately, there are going to be coaching spaces where people, they haven't hit those marks. And then they're coaching people who have maybe exceeded those marks
Yeah.
as well. And I believe in that bigger pile theory is really important because it allows me to coach in individual areas that people haven't hit yet, instead of just reading about it and maybe giving some advice on stuff that we had read.
Yeah, I agree 100% with that. And I also feel it from the loss perspective. Like, I think a coach has to have gone through some challenging times to be a great coach to coach people that are going through challenging times. That's just my take on it. Like,
Yeah.
when I'm on stage speaking, I tell the story about how I lost my son in 2020 just to so people understand that I'm not always this smiley, happy. Like I struggled with life too, right? Like everything hasn't been easy, and I had to connect with him on that level. Can you share a little bit of your story? Like you were on stage talking a story about how I want, if I got this right, if I didn't, I'll delete all of this, but, there was something about you were sitting on a bucket outside of your house, and didn't you just find out your wife had just been pregnant and you were losing, like everything was fading, like money wise, things were going south.
Yeah, pretty close. So it was 2000. That was 2009. So that was at the height of the mortgage crash, and there's lots of, my big thing is perseverance, and people being able to access their perseverance that they've all been through. I think people don't give themselves credit for what they've been through, like you and I do. And it takes having to deal with it directly head on and not packing it away and putting it away. And I think that there's power in unpacking it. And that's one of those moments, right? I mean, I've got way more than I would like to have stacked up in my life, but that was one of those moments, 2009. Yeah, it was my wife. We just had my daughter. My daughter was born January 25th, 2009. I had a 3-year-old. We were 2 years into our marriage, lost our house, filed bankruptcy. All the cars were taken. And then I had one car left, and that was our leased car. But what we didn't know is that when you file bankruptcy, the leasing company will take, even though the judge will allow you to keep one car to go to work and stuff and to take the kids to school, they take that lease. So that was it, and for me, that was the big aha moment where I stopped blaming everybody else and had to start blaming myself and looking for myself. And I think that was a big change for me to stop, take some responsibility for actions in my life up to that point, really looking to seek counsel, to be surrounded by better people than I was surrounded myself with. And God really started taking the wheel from that point. And don't get me wrong, I've been trying to drive that wheel along with him for a while, but the more I let him drive, the better it seems to work for me. But
Yeah,
that
I
was
agree.
one of those moments that, at the time. And then I was left with a bicycle. And then, believe it or not, like a week later, someone stole that damn bicycle. So then I was walking to work. It was like, man, I was blackout drinking at the time, covering up just pain and shame. And,
Yeah.
I just wasn't in a really good mental space, wasn't in a good anything space. So, for me, I needed that wake up call. I don't enjoy it. I didn't enjoy the wake up call when it happened, but it's made me who I am today and a part of who I am today. So, yeah, that was not great, but, it sure stacked me up. Like, here we are in a much different market that I would, there are plenty of people that were probably sitting in that very same seat that I was in this market, with rates going up as high and as fast as they did. And if you look at the amount of people that exited the mortgage industry, if you look at the amount of mortgage businesses and mortgage companies that have gone out, there are less mortgage companies in business than 0809. I mean, it was pretty rough, but it was because of having gone through that instance that I made sure that I was, never going to be in a position to ever have to have my family worry about having food on the table or roof over my head, their head ever again. And so I have to be happy in that. My dad was one of those people that loved to do the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. That is not really who I am. I wish I had more patience, but I'm not a doctor, so I don't. And, my thing is, if it ain't working, try something else. If that ain't working, try something else until something works, and then stick with that and don't touch it.
Well, I think that the stuff you went through, the challenges were a requirement to be where you are today, right? Like
Agreed.
you wouldn't be at the level you're at right now, positively impacting so many lives on your journey. I would love for you, if you had ever done a sit back some time and just really look back over the years, how many people's lives you've changed along the way, JJ, right? Like, I mean, like that's just, I can only imagine, right? And that story resonated so well with me. Look, I brought it back up from years later. I don't even know how many years ago that was. I saw you speak, but it was a long time ago. And I wanted everybody on this that's listening to hear that, because I wanted it to be more relatable to a lot of people who are going through those challenges right now, and lots of adversity in the market, if you listen to the news, lots of craziness going on, because I know there's somebody listening that's a better fit for a client for you than they are for me on this call, right? On this podcast. So I wanted people to know the JJ that I know, right? That been through this, struggled through this, got to here, built it, and I can show you how to not to have this happen in your life. right? Like
Yeah.
that's
Well, first,
we,
if, I think the biggest thing that what's amazing about that, buddy, is your abundance mindset. And I think that's what there's scarcity mindset and there's abundance mindset, and if you can really, you got to use those moments of scarcity to remove the limiting beliefs to get you to an abundance mindset, because mindset is a big deal. You can grovel and sit there and do the pity party. And I've been that person. But man, it is way more powerful to just be like, okay, if I take all that negative energy and put it in a positive direction, be like, dude, I can do whatever I put my mind to. I can literally move the needle. No one starts by lifting 400 pounds. You start by lifting 4 pounds and then you work your way up to it. And I think the more we do hard things and the more things we persevere through, it builds massive confidence by doing those things. And so when people want to avoid the pain or not looking at the things that they persevered or not do hard things, they're depriving themselves of the confidence they need to win and to win the game that they're trying to win.
yeah, that's so good, man. That's so good. So speaking of hard things, um, how's your cold plunge going?
Dude, I love that thing. Are you
I'm
kidding me?
addicted, dude. I'm so addicted. Like,
Yeah, yeah. I've switched to doing it in the evenings too now. So
mm,
I don't always do 2 workouts a day, but I have been doing it, and it's really helped me sleep a lot better too. Man, I'm really, and especially being, as closer I push to 50 and stuff, you just start realizing like how feeling good is really important. And it's not as easy as it once was to feel good. So man, I'm going to do everything I can to feel good and avoid everything that makes me feel bad at all costs, where it probably was switched. I mean, don't get me wrong. Partying all night and large amounts of cocaine and drinking and all that stupid stuff when I was young and dumb and not even, you think you're going to live forever kind of
oh yeah,
mentality. Man, just being able, God giving me the ability to actually live and not die and make it to 40, 7 years old has been a blessing, because now you get to look through it through a much different lens and just have such a larger appreciation for what feeling good is and not feeling good. And that cold plunge, buddy, that's why it's addicting. It's doing something hard every day. And it feels really, really good. And being able to do that on a consistent basis, man, is awesome. And
yeah.
discipline.
I'll be 52 in a couple weeks, and
No way.
yeah, I'll be 52 years old on 9/11. So, but
Happy
yeah,
birthday,
so
dude.
thanks, man. So yeah, the cold plunge is definitely part of my routine. I'm at six. I sit in there for about 6 minutes in the mornings, and I've got it set at 45 degrees, so it fluctuates to 45 to 47. Where do you have yours set at?
Yeah, I'm about there, 45, 47. I found going under that, like when I've done the research, it doesn't mean the colder you get. I think it
Yeah.
just means, the more bragging rights you get more than it is anything else. So I like to stay in longer. So I would rather have it at that 45, 47, stay in there 5 to 10 minutes.
Mhm.
I'll usually turn on my Calm app and I'll do a meditation at the same time. And then, man, I can hop out of that thing, man, and I can fight the Incredible Hulk at that point with a smile on my face while I'm doing it.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm every morning. I jump in there first thing before my coffee or anything. I get in the cold plunge, and
Yeah.
it's been a game changer for me. I've had mine for about 15 months now. I got it in May of last year, so it's been great. And
Yeah,
I
I
got a
think.
sauna too, and I sauna 3-4 times a week. But the cold plunge has been the big deal.
Yeah, I think for a lot of people, and I've dealt with mental illness most of my life, and so the anxiety, the depression, all that stuff. Man, the cold plunge helps fix a lot of those things. It is actually really, really helpful for those. So, and I feel it. And my wife was all, when I first got it, she's like, "You're an idiot." And then I went to like, okay, I can't deny how damn like happy you are and consistent you are and
Mhm.
less edgy you are and all of those things. And I can tell too, if I have to travel and obviously I have to skip my cold plunge for three or 4 days, man,
Yep.
I notice that difference. It's definitely, so I would encourage anyone that's had to deal with those type of things, to give it a shot, right? You don't have to go out there and buy one necessarily, but at least go to one of those clubs and give it a try. And they say, what is it? 3 times at least in one week.
11
You
minutes
don't,
total, I think, is the minimum. Like if you do 11 minutes, the total in a week is good.
then you're
Um,
good, right? Not, you don't have to
yeah.
like chop the ice out and like jump
No,
into a freezing lake
don't have
and
to Joe
stuff like
Rogan
that.
it, right? You don't have to Joe Rogan it. But I
Yeah.
think that I had um, a doctor on the podcast recently, Dr. David Boyd, and he was talking about the reason why the cold plunge is so good, not just the mental aspect, but what it does is how it causes your body to recreate genes, healthy genes, and not give opportunities for cancer and bad cells to be created, which is really cool. But since 11 minutes is all that really takes. But look, I suffer from mental illness as well. I mean, I've issues with depression and anxiety, and I have mornings where I don't want to get out of bed and don't want to put my feet on the floor. And sometimes I could pull the covers over my head and sleep for days. But when I get my feet on the floor and I go directly to that cold plunge before I look at my phone, before I do anything else, it does give me the energy I need to get back there. I don't know if it like freezes the negative out of the brain or what it does, but man, it sure fires it up enough to get me to jump out of there, and I'm ready to go. Like, you're right. It's super ready to go.
Yeah, I love it, dude. Love it.
Let's talk workout and stuff, man. I've seen you. I mean, like, the last couple of times we were together, we were working out. We did that crazy ass Ben Newman unrequired workout, which I don't know if that's like legal in most countries.
That's the truth.
But I mean, you look great, JJ. You look great. You look as fit as I've ever seen you. What's going on with that? You said you've been doing some 2-a-days. What's happening?
Yeah, so I'm down 70 pounds. When my dad died, he was 89, so almost made it to his 90th birthday, and then I turned 45. So there's that, like, literally, like, almost half life, really, when you're comparing it. And I had taken care of him for about a decade. He had dementia. And so when you do get to that point, it really makes you take a hard look. And I took a hard look at myself, and I probably did everything wrong health wise from the time I was 14 till the time I was 40, 42, like, honestly, like, all the way to 45, if I'm talking about eating habits, everything else. Right. So I'm really looking at that going, man, I've got to make some changes. And I had made some small changes around that time, but I was like, it was time for me to make some, like, major changes, and even on my mindset as well. So, I have a trainer come to my house. I'm an early bird, so I love waking up early. I feel good waking up early. So my trainer gets to my house at about 6 a.m. every single day. I have to do cardio warm up from 5:30 to 6. So I'm ready to go, hop off the Peloton, and then just start working out from 6 to 7. And they're there 5 days a week. And then I'll do stuff on the weekends as well, at least one day. So it's 6 days of training a week. Mm-hmm. I just love it. I enjoy it. Now I've replaced the bad habits with the good habits. Gave up alcohol Monday through Thursday. I was probably just drinking more habitually than anything else. And so cutting that out obviously cuts out the calories, cuts out all the stuff. And when you have to train really hard at 6 a.m., alcohol is not your friend, and it's not your friend for sleep. And so, retraining my brain and my habits around that, all of that has been super helpful. But most of all, I have to really give it to my trainer. That was the big change.
Yeah, I agree. My trainer's definitely, had the same trainer for 3 years now, and he's great. I was just with him today, and he pushes me and gets me going. But I'm a 6 day to 7 day a week guy. I work out, whether it's hopping on the Peloton on an off day or doing. My wife is an absolute beast when it comes to training. So today she's like, this is what we're doing for Tabata Saturday in the garage. I'm like, oh my God, are you kidding me? I live in Central Florida. It's 96 here right now. My garage is like 110. Like, well, this is what we're doing. I'm like, okay. And we have an 8-month-old baby, right? So we put the monitor in the garage and go and hope he doesn't wake up in time for the Tabata to be over. But, I wanted to bring you on because I wanted to really help you promote the coaching business. I believe in you guys, all the members there. Like, you're right. I do have an abundant mindset. There's enough business for all of us. I know that it takes really good coaches to help people grow. I've had a coach the whole time I've been in the mortgage space, Bill Hart was my coach for over a decade. He's been my guy for a long time. And I learned a lot from him. And then my Jason Purcell is my best friend, since we were 8 years old. And the mortgage business, we were in the mortgage business together. And so he was all core. So I got all the core stuff, right? So it was kind of back and forth, but it was really good. Tell us about how to find out more about your company and the event that's upcoming in Austin, Texas. Just fill us in.
Yeah, you bet, buddy. So you can go to the impact24event.com. That's where you can check us out. And we're going to be there September 19th and 20th. It's a day and a half. So we're going to be doing something on Wednesday night with our VIPs, special happy hour. Ben's going to be there doing his unrequired workout. So the VIPs will be able to work out with Ben. Ben's going to be hanging out the entire time. He's not just going to show up, speak, and leave. So that's going to be pretty awesome because he's super motivating. And then Wednesday is going to be half a day, and we'll get Jesse to wrap it up for us before sending us all home. And man, I just promise a great experience. I promise that we're going to provide more value than what people are expecting and pay for. And we're taking this really, really personally, and we've been on the other side, and we want to make sure people feel how we want to feel when we go to these things or are sitting in that chair, because we go to lots of them too, because we're looking for that growth also, man. So I thank you so much for having us on and really just helping promote this and giving us a chance, and nothing I wouldn't do to help you out too, brother, to say the word.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. It's my pleasure for sure. And I'm not wait to see what you guys do. And I'm excited for you, man. I'm excited for you guys. I mean, I know you guys are going to bring just tons of value at the event, but just changing lives through the coaching space. That's just what it's about. Thank you for tuning into the One Hand at a Time podcast. Please make sure you like and share the episode, and we'll see you next time here at the One Hand at a Time podcast. Make it a great day.